Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So it's been a while since I've made any sort of book related tag, but floating around on BookTube recently, I keep seeing these book snob tags pop up. And so out of curiosity, I've watched a couple and I thought they were interesting and fun. So I wanted to do the book snob tag. And this is, I guess, for anyone that feels that maybe they are a little bit of a book snob about their book reading, or maybe they've been called a book snob. Really, isn't, I don't know, isn't almost anyone that's on BookTube or does any sort of BookTube videos, aren't you naturally just a little bit of a snob about your books? I mean, I don't think that's really a bad thing, but I thought this would be just a fun, informative little tag to do. So I'm just going to get into it and read the questions off of my beautiful rainbow notebook. I just want to show this off for a moment just because I found this in a store a few months ago and I had to buy it even though I have like a dozen blank notebooks that I've never filled out. But this one is just, it's so pretty. So I just had to show that off. So I'm just going to get into this book snob tag and answer these questions. So question number 1 is Adaptation Snob. Do you always read the book before you see the movie? And I would say if it's a movie, then probably 80 to 90% of the time I do. And if it's a movie that's coming out and I've never heard of it, I've never heard of the book or anything, but I find out that it was a book first, then yeah, usually I try to read the book before I see the movie. However, I've noticed that I'm not the same way about shows necessarily. If it's a book that was adapted into a TV show, then a lot of times I will just go ahead and watch the show and then read the book after. I mean, I don't really have an issue reading the book after I see the movie or the show. Let's see. Question number 2 is format snob. You can only choose one format in which to read a book for the rest of your life. Which one do you choose? Physical books, ebooks, or audiobooks? That's really easy for me to answer, and that's physical books. Hands down, always. That's how I read most of my books, yeah. I couldn't ever see giving up physical books for ebooks or audiobooks unless I was forced to. So only one book for the rest of my life, or one book type, it's going to be physical. No question. Question number 3, ship snob. So I guess that stands for, it's for relationship. Because it says, would you date or marry a non-reader? Okay, so I had to think about this question and I'm still like thinking on it a little bit. Just because for me, I am married. I've been married for 12 years. And when I first met my husband, I wouldn't call him a reader. He had read Harry Potter and loved it and was a big fan of Harry Potter prior to us meeting. So really, that's all I need. That's all I need in a relationship is someone that's at least read Harry Potter. But would I still call him a reader, like a really voracious, like needs to read books reader? No. And would I marry someone if they were a non-reader? Probably yes. As long as that person didn't make fun of me or make me feel bad about reading, then yeah, I'm fine with that. Because plenty of times before he listened to audiobooks or whatever, I would just tell him about books I've read and he will patiently wait on me to finish reading a book. If it is going to be like a show or a movie, and I want to read the book first, then he doesn't give me a hard time. He'll wait for me to read it, and then we'll watch it together. So would I marry a non-reader? Yeah, absolutely. I'm not that snobby. See, I'm not that bad. I feel better about myself right now. Question number 4 is genre snob. You have to ditch one genre, never to be read again for the rest of your life. Which one do you ditch? It's a little bit of a tough question because I found myself liking a lot of different genres that I didn't even know that I was capable of liking. But I guess if I had to ditch one, it would be the one that I reach for the least, which is science fiction. Almost all science fiction that I've read has been kind of pushed on me by, or I've been inspired to read from BookTube, and I haven't been disappointed. But I'm surprised every single time about how much I like science fiction. But again, it's not one that I will automatically reach for. So that's probably the one that if I had to choose one to ditch, it would probably be science fiction. But I don't want to ditch any of them. But if I had to choose one, that would be it. Question number 5. Uber Genre Snob. You can only choose to read from one genre for the rest of your life. Which genre do you choose? So I thought this would be a really easy question to answer. And my first thought is nonfiction. If I could only read one genre for the rest of my life, I thought initially nonfiction, because nonfiction I think is just essential for me to get through life. Because there's definitely been times where I want to know more about a subject, but Googling small articles and little snippets here and there wasn't cutting it. Like, I want to get really deep into it. So I thought that, but really, if pushed to do it, you could get by without any nonfiction books just by Googling, reading blogs, historical websites, things like that, news articles. So I could get by without nonfiction. So I kind of scrapped that. But I do find myself really inspired to get into a lot of nonfiction things, especially history related, by reading historical fiction. So I think, and this isn't 100% because I might change my mind tomorrow depending on my mood, but I think if I could only choose one genre for the rest of my life, I think it would be historical fiction. I think it's really hard for me to answer. This is so hard, harder than I thought it would be, but I think I'm like 75 to 80% that I would choose that for the rest of my life, but I don't want to choose any one, maybe like a top 3. But I think that I'm going to go with that as my answer for today. I might think about this later on and really regret putting that out into the world. Let's see. Question number 6, community snob. Which genre do you think receives the most snobbery from the bookish community? And that was really easy for me to answer, and that is romance. Like, hands down, I think that one definitely receives the most snobbery from people that are into books. It's almost like people, and I found myself thinking this too, so I'm not like, putting that off on everybody else. It's almost like we think that reading hardly even counts if it's a romance novel, which is completely untrue. Thinking about it, like, of course it counts as reading. There's a plot, a storyline. It's not a genre that I reach for, but so many of books that I read in other genres have a lot of romance in them, but they aren't a romance novel because that's not the main theme. So I enjoy romance in my books. I enjoy it in my historical fiction and in my contemporaries and things like that. But yeah, definitely the romance genre, that receives, I think, like the overwhelming majority of snobbery, which is it's undeserved. I think it's undeserved. Question number 7, Snobbery Recipient. Have you ever been snubbed for something that you have been reading or for reading in general? Snubbed. That's what I wrote down. So yes, yes, I had to think about it because my first reaction was no one's ever given me a hard time. But yes, on both accounts, there's definitely been books I've been reading or that I've read and told someone that I read, and the reaction that I've gotten has been like, "You read that? Why would you read something like that?" And it's because, books, I feel like you shouldn't be judged for a topic that you're reading. Like, I don't want to be a serial killer, and I don't think that they're really cool, but I actually really enjoy listening to podcasts and reading about serial killers and really awful, heinous things. I don't know why that doesn't make me an awful person, but some people, when they've seen some of the book choices that I've been reading or had laying around, they've been like, why would you want to read this? And kind of made me question, what kind of person I am to want to read that. But I think it's undeserved, and I don't feel bad about reading the books that I read. Now, as for the second part of the question, have I ever been snubbed for reading in general? And I would say yes, but it hasn't given me any lasting bad feelings. I've definitely had someone ask me before, like, why are you reading so much? Reading's boring. Why are you doing that? I think this was when I was like 14 or 15, and it was an older teenage girl, and she couldn't understand why I like to read so much, and I remember just kind of ignoring her and continuing to read my book. And I've never felt ashamed of my reading. As I mentioned before, maybe a little bit like questioning myself for some of the topics that I read on, but I let that go because I'm not going to let that stop me from reading or stop me from reading the subjects that I want to read. But yeah, that's the book Snob Tag. Again, I thought it'd be really fun to do. I didn't get tagged by anyone. I just wanted to do it. So I just tag anyone that wants to do it, anyone and everyone. I'll put the questions down below in the description. But yeah, I thought it was a fun tag to do, and I enjoyed thinking about the questions. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and I'll see you all again really soon.